Today we'll be looking at a professional Terran versus Terran match, a TvT on the map Berlingrad. Where are my dogs? I don't see them yet. The Terran in the upper left wielding the blue SCVs. It is Clem. And his Terran opponent in the bottom right with the red command center belonging to ByuN. Clem versus ByuN, two of the most hyper-aggressive Terrans that I can think of. And doubly so if we get to see Reapers. These two players, if you were to liken the Reaper to a player, like you might say, who uses Reapers the best? Who iconicized the Reaper? I think we'd have to go with that man first. ByuN got the Reaper nerfed, we all know it. Clem came a bit later into the scene, but his Reapers are some of the scariest that I can think of. The Reaper control, the micro, the little actions and decision making that these two can put out. It's always impressive. They're both opening up, looks like identical, with the exception that ByuN is not scouting. No scout, Clem opening up with the reactor first, while ByuN's getting that safety Reaper. Little bit of a gamble, we see, but I don't expect anything to actually come of it. They're both doing gambles in a different sense, actually, because Clem's going for the reactor, but ByuN's not even scouting. He doesn't care. He says, I know you're Terran. What can you do? Make Reapers? So can I. So, and that is exactly what he's going to do. The first Reaper goes out on the map. Clem responding, making two at a time. Factories for both. Probably see Hellions. The traditional current TvT build has you opening up with both Reapers and Hellions. Because, well, nobody's really figured anything else out yet at this point. This SCV, very unfortunate, going to be picked off. No command center just yet for Clem. ByuN's did get down already, so a little bit quicker. Some slight deviation. Clem, although, adding on even more Reapers. What's better than two, you ask? My dear mathematicians, you know 4 is better than 2. Tech lab was made on the barracks, not a reactor. Immediately can get that cyclone going versus Clem's getting the Hellions ready. SCV does get picked off, slight delay. Clem pushing back, he's punching, he says, you delay mine, I will delay yours just as much, if not more. However, ByuN does have the army advantage just there, but he doesn't want to press it, it looks like. Clem did have reinforcements coming, and ByuN likely sensing that. Instead, focusing on himself. He says, I have my build, it has a Banshee in it. For some reason, that's a little different, that's slightly unusual, but I'm excited. Multiple Cyclones coming, too. ByuN, what are you doing? What are you up to, ByuN? SCV, giving the Band-Aid to the Hellion. Here, I hope you feel better. Get a nice treat. Holy Reaper, Clem, coming out with 5 after losing 1. We're going to see some aggression. However, there's 2 Cyclones, which I feel like should shut this down pretty strongly. Cyclone is the unit that comes up in TvT to put a stop to these shenanigans. The Reapers and the Hellions just cannot compete with a Cyclone. Between the increased range, the firepower, and the fact that it's armored and has a higher health pool, it's a very nice, well-rounded early defensive tool. You'll see it in other matchups too, versus things like early Oracle or Void Ray from Protoss, Zerg, I don't know, Ravagers maybe against a Roach Rush, but the Banshee kind of fills that role too, so We will see. Both of these players moving out at virtually the same time, gonna skirt right on by while the Banshee comes into the natural. There is no turret. There are not even any Marines in place. There's one, Marvin, but he's not confident. I don't think he can handle it. Both players moving into the natural. Now Clem brought a tank to deal with ByuN's tank. That's a lot of pressure. Meanwhile, ByuN moves his Reaper Cyclone hit squad. The Banshees in the main base getting damaged on, but not for long. Clem doing damage on this side. Depot and tank number 2 gonna be picked off for ByuN. SCVs are both the boys going after the Marines. This is going to be cleaned up. On this side, ByuN's stuff is still uncontested, really. The Vikings, not that good against, well, yeah, they're not really that good. Was now really the best time to call down that mule, Clem? I know you really want to keep up with your macro, but I don't think calling down a mule in front of the enemy Cyclone and the Hellion was the best decision to make. Just a hunch. This Reaper, the heroic Reaper, still getting damaged on with medevac support, and he gets out. Oh my gosh, Clem saving it. Treating the Reapers right. Really? Really? It is 6.5 minutes in the game. We have Reapers with medevac support. Not enough support, it looks like. Farewell. Alright. Tally the damage. Show me the numbers. A lot of SCVs went down through all of that. Resources? Pretty even, actually. They both punched each other relatively the same amount of force. This medevac does not have nearly enough health to be carrying 2 tanks in it. Does get both the tanks out, but with the Ravens and the Marine support... Clem, how much are you really expecting to get done here? You have 2 tanks and 3 Marines. All ByuN has to do is siege up and keep the Ravens at the ready. Alright, can we please just go to our corners? Take a breath, take a minute. Maybe a sip of water. Don't get dehydrated, guys. Third CC for both players, realizing we're not going to be able to kill each other in the first 8 minutes, despite killing virtually as many workers as you might see in an entire Platinum League game killed off. We're fine. Everybody's even. So we're moving up. Third bases are being taken. Scouting Marines are meeting for something a little bit more violent than brunch. Clem wins it. He takes it. Stim pack. Clem does not have stim, nor is he getting it yet, despite being on a tech lab. Clem... Stim pack is kind of important. Don't know if you guys know that, but if you're making Marines or Marauders, it is a little important to get. Couple tanks, gonna find a couple Marines. Very one-sided engagement there. Clem now knows where ByuN's army is, though. Gonna be able to respond. How's our Viking numbers doing? Clem, slightly up by 1. Negligible. Given that there's 3 Ravens out for ByuN to Clem's 0, I'm inclined to say the favor goes to ByuN. Ravens are just very valuable. Stim did finish up for ByuN. Clem did eventually start it, but it's going to be much later. Clem, don't do it. It's a lot of Vikings. Like, actually, that's a lot of Vikings. To deal with the Ravens, maybe? I mean, yes, ByuN does have his own Vikings. The focus is on air control. As you should know, for TvT, there is a big focus on air control because Ravens and Liberators are such key units. Anti-armor missile goes down, forcing Clem to back up. Or not. You probably should be backing up, Clem. But he does have the Viking numbers. What do I know? There are still the Ravens, though only one was used for the anti-armor missile. It looks like it did pay with its life, but it can be rebuilt. ByuN could go back into Ravens. He's still got 2, though. which for interference matrix on all these tanks. Clem's Marine count is relatively low, only 10 Marines total. Interference matrices across the board. Siege tanks setting up. Liberator Freedom Zone going to be denied. The boys were pulled and sacrificed for the good of the clan. Siege tanks coming back up from the interference matrix. ByuN looks like he's going to win the air war. Nope, Clem just barely. One Viking left. Siege tanks can't easily be dealt with. Can the Marines wrap around the top side and pressure the SCVs? They can. Command center going to be lifted. There were a lot of SCVs killed off, and now the denied mining time will have to come into play. Clem's third base is not functional here. Siege tanks winning for ByuN. Clem cannot get rid of these two tanks just yet. Stemming the Marines forward. Only one tank was sieged up. Going to be able to punish that. Nice little micro move. Small decisions being made. That's what I was talking about. These guys, they're just so good with the little details, the finer decisions to be made. Clem going to rotate around. Just take this base for your third. I kind of like it. ByuN, however, can rotate. Likewise, your units can move too, he says. Clem being able to set up first, though, should be able to keep a defensive line around this. Were all the Ravens killed off? All of the Ravens were killed off, so there's no more potential for interference matrix, no auto turrets or anti-armor missile, which could change the terms of engagement. It gives a good opening for ByuN, like you saw. The interference matrix let him get his forces in there. Stemming forward, Marines dying off, Viking waddling away, doing its little duck squat, trying its hardest to get away. Siege tanks gonna shut all of this down, though. ByuN keeping up the pressure, sending his Marines into the grinder, perhaps. Siege tank, Viking dies. Landed Vikings. We wish they were good. We wish they were better. ByuN keeping up with these reinforcements. A parade push on Clem's left side. Can he respond? More siege tanks are dying off. Oh. Clem is just struggling to get enough army units to keep everything in position, and ByuN is just going to go for the main base. Says, fine, you defend this base. You're not defending your main base. Boys are pulled yet again. Siege tanks for ByuN are in the red, but they're getting a lot of work done. 13 more SCVs were killed off. Siege tank, can it hold? Not very easily. The forces are going to be cleaned up, so that was a lot of blood. Both players just taking bites out of each other here. ByuN did get to slam down that fourth base, giving him a nice economic edge. Clem's third is secure, but he lost more SCVs in the main, totaling 52 workers killed. Oh, man. Devastation. ByuN, you've done enough damage, ByuN. I don't think you need to just send out a single medevac of Marines. You have been punching this poor man in the face for nearly 5 minutes straight now. What else are you going to do? Kills off a few Marines. Not much else, though. No real infrastructure damage. There are still a couple tanks down here in the sensor tower. Very helpful. Gives Clem the knowledge that ByuN is coming. Able to get some reinforcements in position to help with that. 2-2 gonna finish up for ByuN. Clem only has 1-1. 2-2 just started less than a minute ago. So another nice advantage goes to ByuN. He's got the economy. He's got the upgrades. The production is in his favor as well. The SCV count looking great for our Red Terran, who is now dropping more forces into the main base. Clem just cannot keep enough guys in position to defend all of these angles. ByuN really exploiting Clem's lack of mobility due to having less army forces. Siege tanks are going to be destroyed. ByuN does pick up out of there. Saves the barracks. Good job, Steve. You repair that barracks. And 3-3 now. Big advantage. if the game continues, if ByuN doesn't just put him in the ground in the next minute or so. Clem absolutely can still bounce back. We see Corvid Reactor. Corvid, not the other word. We don't say that word on social media anymore. Corvid Reactor, increasing the starting energy for Ravens coming up. Siege Tank in the main base, that's what Clem needs to do. He needs some defenses. Make some turrets, for crying out loud. Single Marine for Clem scouts the 5th base. I didn't see if that was off position, that's why ByuN canceled it, or maybe he's just looking for style points. Who knows? I wouldn't put it past either of these players to go for some style point decisions. ByuN's Marine's going to win that engagement in the center, just keeping vision. Losing a medevac full of Marines, though, that's not ideal. Army supply actually in favor of Clem at this point, who has buckled down off of his 3 bases and produced a sizable force. Will we do battle in the center? Siege tanks are in the medevacs for Clem. Slightly risky if they get picked off by Vikings, but on the flip side, it looks like there's less siege tanks than there's actually there. And that might just bait ByuN into doing something, into making a bad decision. We shall see. This base going to be taken for Clem, who picks up even more tanks into medevacs. Curious. Marines for ByuN, stimming. Clem stims in response. You will not stim unless I tell you to stim. Siege tanks setting up. All of those Marines should be in danger. SCVs now in peril for ByuN as well. Viking War takes place. Siege tanks shelling everywhere that they can. Clem did, wow, don't look at that. Age of Empires players, avert your eyes. Siege tanks over here, they're all set up. Clem, gonna try and pack it home. ByuN did win the air battle, and air control is a huge deal for TvT. Siege tanks shoot farther than they can see. Liberators can deal with siege tanks disgustingly well. Ravens deal with siege tanks. You get it. It's important to have air control. That's why we make so many Vikings. 3-3 did finish up for ByuN's Marines. That's definitely a nice pickup here by Clem as well. Good decision getting rid of a few tanks. Any small hit that Clem can do to keep ByuN on ByuN's side of the map is a very good thing. More siege tanks going to be picked off in the main base. This whole drop is going to be cleaned up though. And now siege tanks set up in here yet again, denying the 5th base of ByuN. Oh, interference matrix on the siege tanks. ByuN's tanks setting up. In the meantime, Marines pushing forward. The 3-3 makes a big difference. ByuN, he's safe. He's relatively safe. More SCVs were killed off, but only a few. And now, do you go for it? Do you punch? I think so. I think you punch. I think you try and cut off Clem's reinforcements. ByuN sees Clem set up down here. You say, go for it. I'm going to cut off your 3rd base. I'm going to make sure you are in a bad spot and have to make those kinds of decisions. ByuN pushing even more forward. He can pressure this base. He can set up shop. This is a lot of siege tanks too. Clem tries to flank, unfortunately. Vikings do spot it. Ravens definitely in danger. Oh, GG's going to be called. Clem losing the base, decides to tap out, unable to break ByuN's forces. Marvelously played, really, by both players. ByuN, especially the little decisions being made, the drops, pulling Clem in different directions. Very well earned. If you enjoyed, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so very much for watching. As always, I hope you have a great day.